Hello, everyone. We're just opened the meeting and people are entering now, so it'll be a minute or two until everyone has entered in. People are still entering in. We're expecting about 78 people. So far, about 47 have entered, so another minute or two, and we'll start. People are still entering. People are still entering. We'll wait about one more minute and then we'll start. Okay, it looks like a good number of people have entered. And so why don't we go ahead and begin? Welcome to the SFA training webinar focused on pre-recording of sessions. My name is Michael Paoliso. I'm the president-elect of the Society for Applied Anthropology, and I'm also a professor at the University of Maryland, focusing on applied environmental anthropology. I'm a white male, I have brown hair, I have black glasses. I'm dressed in a medium blue shirt, and I'm sitting at home in my home study in front of a shelf of books. My pronouns are he and him. So I want to welcome everyone to the webinar. We've got a good turnout. We have 78 people registered. I see 61 have already signed in. This is the third in a series of SFAA training webinars to help our members and participants, meeting participants, get ready for our annual meeting coming up in March. Our next training webinar is this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. It'll be the same topic, instructions for pre-recording sessions, same materials. Please join us if you'd like. I'm sure there'll be additional questions and answers to that. Our next training webinars will focus on preparing live streaming events, and those are on February 25th, Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Monday, March 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can get more information on these training webinars and their schedule from our meeting website, and we'll also be sending out emails and tweets and other social media reminders about them. Before we begin, just a few particulars about the webinar. As you've probably already noticed, we're recording it and it will be posted after the meeting to the SFAA annual meeting website page. Closed captioning and live transcripts is available. We're using Otter AI, and you should see that on the bottom right of your screen. We will be doing question and answer after the presentations. One of our colleagues, Janelle, will read the questions, and then the team will take turns in answering the questions. we'll focus on questions and not so much on comments. Also, your video and audio has been disabled, and we'll use the question and answer tool as the main mean of communication. So at this time, let me just say a couple things about the annual meeting in general. We feel we have a good program. We currently have over 1,000 meeting registrants. We have close to 600 papers in around 200 sessions that are live and pre-recorded. The meeting will run for 6 days. We have 5 time slots each day. We'll have distinguished lectures, award ceremonies, plenaries, opportunities for you to network. And we're using the online conferencing platform called Huva, which you'll hear more about today. And we'll have a nice mix of live streamed and pre-recorded sessions. 2 days before the week previous to the conference, we will have 2 days of workshops. So at this point, I'd like to introduce members of the SFAA meeting working group that since April, May have been working on putting this meeting together. And it's been my privilege to kind of chair the meeting and work with all of them. So I'll go across my screen and ask each of them to introduce themselves and say a word or two. So I'll start with Kira Ballin.
Hi, thanks, Michael. Hello, everyone. My name is Kira. I am a young white woman with blonde hair sitting in front of my kitchen, so you can see some cabinets behind me. I'm wearing a white and black sweater with some various patterns and stripes on them. My pronouns are she and her. I recently graduated from Purdue's master program, where I focused on the applied anthropology educational experiences that practitioners had and some of their feedback for improving education. And I've been lucky to work with the meeting working group specifically focused on Huva and implementing the online format. So I'm looking forward to showing you how to prepare your pre-recorded presentations today.
Thank you, Kira. Trish.
Hi, I'm Trish Colvin. I am the office manager for the society.
Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Cope. I work as the annual meeting program administrator. I use the pronouns she and her, and I have my video turned off because I don't want the dogs bombing us.
Great. Rebecca Eli.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Eli Long. I'm a white person with short brown hair and dark rimmed glasses, sitting in front of a plain wall with a couple of abstract pen and ink drawings tacked up behind me. I use they, them pronouns, and I am currently a PhD student at Purdue University, focusing on creative ethnographic methods for disability anthropology. And with all of the people on the call here today, I'm part of the meeting working group focusing on accessibility and online programming.
Thank you. Don.
My name is Don Stoll. I'm the SFAA Annual Meeting and Awards Coordinator. I'm also Professor Emeritus of Anthropology at the University of Kansas. I'm a white male of a certain age with brown hair and a very gray mustache, sitting in front of a very ugly curtain.
Thank you. Janelle.
Hi, I'm Janelle. I use she, they pronouns. I am African American. I am wearing, I guess, a golden colored shirt with black lettering that says Purdue, and my background is a green screen. I am an archaeologist that works in Sudan, and I'm really excited to be part of the working group, helping get everything online for everyone.
Okay. Thank you. There are another 4 or 5 members of our working group. We take turns in working on the webinars and stuff. So just a few comments about our format today and content. You'll hear a lot from Kira and Rebecca Eli. They will walk you through some of the tools for recording presentations, They'll talk about accessibility practices, some information on downloading and file naming conventions, transcripts and supplemental material, session share responsibilities. They'll talk about some deadlines. Going to talk about how to set up your profile in Whova. And we'll also talk about posters and the meetups, and they'll present some information on office hours and future training dates and other resources that we have available. So I think Kira will start us off, and she has asked that if you save your questions for after her presentation, go ahead and put them in the chat, and then we'll work through them afterwards. So, and then all of us will help with question and answers. So I'm going to now turn it over to Kira.
All right, thanks, Michael. Hello, everyone, again. As Michael said, we're going to be covering a lot of content today, so I am going to just jump in, hit the ground running. So to start, I wanted to review some of the tools for recording pre-recorded presentations. So I'm going to go through the live pre-recorded presentations, the video presentations, and then I'm going to circle back around to the poster presentations. So we'll cover both of these types of presentations today. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Let me do my full desktop here. Okay. Oops. All right, wonderful. So on my screen, you should see the SFAA pre-recorded presenter guide. This is a guide that will be available on the SFAA website later today. I'm going to sort of walk you through the information and content that we have available, as well as showing you some of the tips, techniques, and tricks for creating your pre-recorded presentation. So for the pre-recorded presenter guide, we start off with instructions for pre-recorded sessions. These are the video sessions that will be available within Whova. I am going to give you in-depth walkthroughs of both PowerPoint and Zoom. I wanted to point out that we have linked instructions for how to generate PowerPoint videos, as well as video tutorials. And we also have instructions for Zoom, creating presentations within Zoom. So to start, I wanted to walk us through how to create a video presentation in PowerPoint. So opening up PowerPoint here, you should see I have a sample presentation, something I created in my graduate courses on field notes and data management. So if you choose to use PowerPoint for your presentation materials, this is how we recommend you create that presentation. I am presenting on a Mac computer, so this is going to look slightly different on Windows processing systems. But again, the instructions have linked guidelines where you can run through and see exactly what it's going to look like on your type of computer. So under the Home button, we can do what we normally do within PowerPoint. In order to add narration to our slides, we want to navigate to the Slideshow button. So under that slideshow button, you'll see I have a few different options from playing the current slide, as well as recording slide timings. So I'm going to show you an example of what it would look like to record a slideshow. So when I click record slideshow, you'll see here it opens into a new screen. And again, this might look a little different on a Windows processing system. On the top here, you'll see we have a timer going for how long I've been approximately speaking on this slide. Because I'm in Zoom right now, PowerPoint's probably not picking up my audio, but typically it would be picking up anything I'm saying. So as I'm speaking, PowerPoint is recording the audio associated with the slide. As I navigate to the second slide, it basically saves the time slide that I have, as well as the narration that I've provided. So up top here, we have a few different tools. You can pause the recording if you want to pause before you reach a new slide, or if you're going to introduce different material. You can also end the show up top. At the very top, you should have a bar here which shows the progression. So as I click through slides, it'll show me approximately where I'm at in completing that presentation. You can see here a total runtime for the presentation. So in this case, I've been speaking for about a minute. So you can time yourself. If you have 15 slides, they need to take 15 minutes. It gives you a good idea of how to pace your presentation. Maybe you need to speed up or slow down. When I go ahead and end the show, you'll see here underneath the slides, we have the time that the narration took on each slide, as well as this little feature here, the star with the few sort of like shooting star marks, which indicates that audio narration has been saved on these slides. So this is a very simple presentation format. There's no video thumbnail of yourself speaking. It's essentially just the PowerPoint presentation as well as the audio overlay on top of it. In order to download this presentation, you want to head to File, and then you want to export it. PowerPoints typically save as a PowerPoint file, and what we want to do is create a video or a movie file, which is going to be an MP4 file. So instead of saving it or saving as, you want to export it. When you export it, you can select the file or destination where you'd like the file to sit. For me, I'm just going to leave it in downloads. That's perfectly fine. The file format. We don't want it as a PDF. Again, we want it as a video file. So we want it as an MP4 file. That's a movie file. Here, PowerPoint has given us a few different options for the presentation quality. You'll want to leave it on presentation quality if you are presented with this option. The width and the height you can leave as is. PowerPoint will automatically adjust those to your PowerPoint slides. And then at the very bottom, you just want to ensure that use recorded timings and narrations is enabled. Essentially, this will take the audio and the timing from the slides that you just recorded are associated with the video that you're creating. Then you're going to go ahead and export it. So once you export it, you should have a file which looks similar to this right here. So I have my ANTH 605 presentation. We can see here that it's an MP4 file. When I go ahead and open it up, you'll see here that I actually have a video file. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So real quick, I'll play you. This was a sample I created earlier, so it's not a perfect example, but you can hear the audio and the slide timings.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kira, and today I would like to discuss a presentation on field notes and data management. On my first slide here, I would like to discuss Duncan Branley's Making and Managing Audio Recordings, where he discusses different types of media and audio tools to use while conducting ethnography in the field. On my third
So as you can see, that is a sample of what a presentation would look like. We have the audio and the PowerPoint slides going in tandem with one another based on how you recorded it in PowerPoint. So that is just a very brief overview of how to create a PowerPoint presentation, a PowerPoint video. Again, in our presenter guides, we have sort of step-by-step instructions for how to do this. Next, I wanted to review the Zoom instructions. And so because we're on a Zoom call, I'm going to share some links with you to show you what these types of presentations would look like. So in the Zoom Help Center, we have a local recording guideline that we've listed to help you record your Zoom meetings. Just here, I wanted to show you what the screen would look like. So if you plan to record a Zoom meeting, it's really simple. All you have to do is open up a Zoom meeting. If you're by yourself and you're presenting, you don't need to add anyone else. You would essentially just be by yourself in that meeting. At the bottom of your screen, once you've started the meeting, you'll have an option to record. And you have two options to record. You can record it to your computer, your local computer. You can also record it to the cloud. So I'm going to explain the difference between the cloud and your computer. So here you'll see I've logged into my Zoom online account. So this is an account that I access from an internet browser and not from the Zoom software itself. In the settings underneath recordings, you'll see here that I can access cloud recordings, which are saved in the cloud. It's basically an online server where your recordings would be saved, and I could access them on this page. The other option is a local recording. So local recordings are downloaded to your computer to an area or file of choice. So here I would not be able to access the recording, but I could see where that recording was saved on my computer. Real quick, back in the Zoom meeting here, when you record your session, whether you do it to the computer or to the cloud, you'll receive a message at the end of your meeting, when you end the meeting, which will show you that it's converting the meeting to a recording. If it's recording to the cloud, you will see in your online account that recording will show up Depending on how long your video is, about 30 minutes to an hour after. Sometimes it'll take as long as 3 or 4 hours. If you're recording to a local file, something that's on your computer, it's going to look more like this. I'm going to open my files here. So this is what the file will open up as after you finish the Zoom recording. You'll see that you actually get 3 files after the Zoom recording has finished. You get an audio only file, a playback file, and then we get an MP4 file. So again, MP4 is what we're looking for. That is the complete video presentation that's accompanied with audio and any screen sharing that you may have done of presentation slides, etc. You'll see when I open that, it's going to be very similar to the PowerPoint, except it was conducted in Zoom.
Hi all, welcome to my presentation. I'm going to stop recording right now.
So that was just a sample, but you can see, I can see a thumbnail at the beginning portion of the video in the top right corner. I also have the ability to share slide material, PDF, Word documents, any other materials that I want to share on my screen. So Zoom is one of the easier tools to go ahead and conduct your presentation. There are also a few other tools which we have mentioned on our presenter guides. So if you don't want to use PowerPoint and you don't want to use Zoom, we've offered a few different free softwares that you can use. Briefly, I'm going to show you what these websites look like. I would note that if you are less comfortable with technology, with recording videos and creating presentations, you probably want to stick with PowerPoint and Zoom. If you're feeling more comfortable with these types of softwares and you have a fast learning curve, these other softwares online are very easy and free to use. So Panopto is one of the ones we've recommended here. You can create a free trial, and most of these free trials will allow you to record about 5 hours of video presentations. That should be more than enough to cover your SFAA presentations. There's also a software we've recommended called Camtasia, and these allow for screen recording and video editing. So very similar to what you would do in a Zoom meeting where you're trying to capture what's going on in your screen. At the same time, you can do various things with the tools. We can have web camera capture. That essentially is a thumbnail video in the right-hand corner. You can use templates. You can add different types of features to the video if you're a little bit more experienced and you want to create a more engaging presentation. So we have linked these in our SFAA presenter guide. We also have recommended that you check with any university supported technologies or workplace supported technologies. They might afford you licenses to different types of softwares. Some which are more advanced would be VoiceThread and Adobe Premiere Pro. These softwares are a little bit higher level, but if you have access to them, you can also create presentations this way. So once your presentation is created, we essentially want to make sure that you are naming it properly. So when you submit it to the SFAA, we'd like it named a certain way so we can organize it and make sure that it gets uploaded to the correct session. So our naming convention, or what we'd like you to name your files as, can be seen here on the video file format instructions. So again, the video must be in an MP4 format, and the file naming convention is going to be session ID - your last name .mp4. And so here I will use my name as an example. All of the session IDs are listed before the session. So this first workshop is session 18-1. The second workshop is session 18-3, so on and so forth. If I'm going to find my session, I can search by my first or last name. We'll see here that I am in PR 26-11. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that real quick, and I'm going to navigate back to my presentation. So if this is my presentation, I might have named it something else when I initially downloaded it. The way that you would rename it would be to right click. On a Mac, it's actually going to be Control and click, and then select rename. When I rename it, I'm going to do PR 2611. We don't want any spaces in there. And then we're going to do -Ballin for my last name. So that's the naming convention that I can use to submit my presentation to the SFAA. And we're going to go over some submission guidelines in a moment. So pretty self-explanatory. You just want to find your session ID, combine it with your name, and create a file that'll be easy for us to recognize. So let's see, with all of that said, before I continue, I'm going to turn over to Rebecca Eli, who will discuss some accessibility best practices when creating your video presentations.
Great. And Kira, did you want to share slides for that?
Oh, yes, sorry. One moment.
Thanks. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Okay, let me share screen. Oops, sorry. There we are. Okay. Accessibility.
Great. So I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about some of the steps we're asking all of our members to do to make the content more accessible for our online meeting, as we're all trying to adjust and figure out what the best practices are. We've had a number of conversations with some different organizations, and what we're sharing with you today are our recommendations. So we're asking presenters to either caption their videos, and there are instructions for that for Zoom and PowerPoint linked in those guides. And if that doesn't work for you, you can also provide us a transcript. And so we're asking that that be done for all of the videos, so that anyone who is deaf or hard of hearing, or who doesn't process auditory language very well, will be able to follow along and understand the content. We are recommending that you take advantage of some of the AI captioning options that are getting better, but as you may know from our captioning today, is not always perfect. So we're asking that if you use these, to just please read over them, correct things. Things like names, technical terms are often misspelled. So those are really important to correct, to make sure that your captions are actually conveying what you want them to convey. We're also asking all of the presenters to do an accessible introduction. So like we did today, to give a brief visual description of yourself using whatever terms are comfortable for you, and include your pronouns if that's comfortable, as well as just a brief description of who you are, just like you would at an on-site conference. We're asking that you describe any visual content on your slides. So this is really important, that say if you're showing an image, to say, so I have an image of a landscape with some mountains and trees, and there's a barn in the foreground, or something like that. So that to not assume that people who are looking at your presentation are actually able to see all of the information. And this is actually super important, because with this visual content, it's also helpful if the presentation uses a larger font, if things are done in very high contrast. And all of this will help make sure that all of the conference attendees will be able to access your materials. We're also asking that presenters speak slowly. We know it's really easy when you're presenting to get speaking very fast, and this will also help with the captioning being more accurate, as well as just making sure that if you're reading through a transcript, you're not speed reading, basically. We know that happens sometimes, and that's just something to be alert to as you're recording your material. And we're asking that you follow accessible practices for formatting any handouts. So like I said, because of the visual video format, where sometimes things are displayed a little smaller than they might be on a big conference screen, you can provide handouts with any tables that might be too detailed to read in a video window. You can also provide things for members to be able to follow along on their own computer. And there are instructions that are linked in the presenter guide. And yes, you will all be getting a copy of that soon, and not just everyone who is on this call, but we will be sharing that with all of our members very shortly. I think ideally later today is our timeline for that. So with that, I will pass it back over to Kira, and I think we're talking a bit about posters next.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Rebecca Eli. And as, oh, sorry, let me see if I can get out of here. There we go. As Rebecca Eli mentioned, we have resources for creating accessible presentations and tips for creating accessible captions, transcripts, visuals, as well as any supplementary materials. So I wanted to note real quick, if you do provide captions and transcripts or any handouts and supplementary material, we also have provided instructions for how to add watermarks. And the reason we've done that is because some of these documents will actually be accessible or downloadable from Whova. So briefly, I wanted to show you what your presentation would likely look like. For pre-recorded presentations, this is what a session is typically going to look like. You'll have the pre-recorded video here, the Q&A, the polls, and the chat on the right, which we'll review shortly. Down below, you'll see is where any of the handouts are attached. So any captions that were provided, transcripts, any supplementary materials, they are actually able to be downloaded by members. And so to prevent any copyright issues, we have provided instructions for how to add watermarks. Which I have right here for you. So many tabs open. So I've provided instructions for how to use watermarks in a Microsoft Word document, as well as in a PowerPoint document. And so these are step-by-step instructions for how to add that watermark or that copyright to any documents that you choose to share with us. So I just wanted to point that out. Quickly, before I run to the poster sessions, I wanted to discuss a process for session chairs and session participants to work together to create their presentations and then submit materials to the SFAA. So for session chairs, we've provided two options essentially to help organize your session. The first is to collect pre-recorded videos from each presenter. So if there's no time for you all to meet at one time and everyone's going to be recording videos separately, that's totally fine. We ask that the session chairs collect those videos as well as any supplementary material and then submit them collectively to the SFAA. The second option is to schedule a Zoom meeting with all of the presenters in a session to record all of the presentations at the same time. This obviously is ideal in terms of video recording, having one recording for each session. It's also ideal in terms of, I guess that's it. It's ideal in terms of having the one session up for us. And really it runs more like a presentation. So instead of having disparate presentations, they all sort of flow as one. Now, if there are session chairs or session participants who do not have access to a Zoom account, which allows for more than 40 minutes, the SFAA will be creating meetings that session chairs and their participants can use to record their presentations. So we just ask that the session chairs provide a date and a time at which all participants can meet together. We'll go ahead and provide that link and provide you instructions for how to record that session. This is one area we're still working some details out. That will be sort of finalized by the end of the day. And as Rebecca Eli mentioned, this guide will be accessible on the website by the end of today. In terms of submission deadlines, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint here again. So we will be providing a submission form on the SFAA website by February 12th, 2021. That's about 2 Fridays from this Friday. On the same day that we enable the submission form, we will also be emailing the session chairs a link to that form and just requesting that they submit those materials for their session whenever they have time. All pre-recorded presentations and materials are due by Sunday, February 28th, 2021. And that gives us time to make sure everything's uploaded to Whova correctly, to combine any videos if videos were recorded separately, and to make sure transcripts and supplementary materials are uploaded early. Now, we realize this is a much earlier deadline than most of you are used to, and so I'll be detailing some of the additional support we'll be providing over the next month. But that is sort of the timeline for submitting these pre-recorded presentations. All right, so now we can move on to the poster guidelines. And so these are going to be instructions for the poster sessions, both the poster presentations and the video poster presentations if you choose to create both. So as I've shown, the SFAA posters will be displayed on the Adobe Portfolio website. That's going to look something like this. So as you can see here, I have the example with my own information, and I've preloaded all of the other poster pages. So once we collect materials from each poster presenter, they will be uploaded in a similar format. As I click into a page, I'll be able to see the 3 to 5 minute poster video if the presenters chose to provide one, as well as the actual poster itself down below. So in order to create your poster presentation, we've given a few different guidelines. The two most popular tools are PowerPoint and Canva. PowerPoint, I've added a guide for creating posters in PowerPoint and downloading them as a PNG or JPEG file. I've also attached a tutorial for using Canva, which is a really great design sort of tool online that you can use to create a variety of different documents. So real quick, I'll show you what a poster might look like in Canva. This is a video that I've added to our guide. And so you'll be able to walk through exactly how this presenter created her poster, her scientific poster presentation. You can see here, she was able to have a lot of customization with the text type, as well as adding her graphs and images into that as well. We recommend that all of the posters, this is just a sample here on the right, are downloaded as a PNG or a JPEG file. Those are photo files. We would not be able to accept PDF files as they won't upload to the Adobe Portfolio website. So here, what we would recommend is that you would download the PNG file. These are typically going to be higher quality images over the JPEG file, JPG. If the PowerPoint or the Canva is only giving you the JPEG option, that's okay, but preferably the PNG file will be the better, higher quality image. So that is for posters. We all have some best practices in terms of poster format here as well, in terms of text size that we recommend, as well as accessibility, access copy, which I think Rebecca, Eli, did you want to touch on that right now?
Yeah, I can do that. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to show everyone this accessibility guidelines that were put together by the American Anthropological Association. And if you're clicking through links in our guide, a lot of it will direct you to this page. And we're super grateful for Nell, who is the AAA's accessibility coordinator, for working with us, as well as these guidelines came from the Disability Research Interest Group as well in an earlier iteration. And they are some of the most comprehensive guidelines that are around for anthropology. So we are using them. So I really just wanted to highlight sort of all of the different guidelines that are available, including some tips on captioning, some tips on checking for color contrast. And then over here, there's a bit about posters. And a lot of this is really talking about physical posters. It does include some helpful tips on sort of how to organize your content, but I also wanted to draw your attention to the idea of poster accessibility. So it's talking about how you can create a screen reader friendly version of your poster as a PDF file. You could also do a .doc. And so what this is doing is this is talking about ways, because if you're using a screen reader, all of the text that's in your poster, no one is going to be able to read that with a screen reader, which is what someone who is visually impaired or blind might be doing. So what this guide is walking you through is how to copy that content over into a Word document or a PDF and create a format of your poster that's going to be more accessible. And these will be able to be uploaded into Whova so that there'll be an alternate format for your poster as well. So I will pass it back to Kira to keep talking you through all of the features in Whova.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rebecca, Eli. Let's see. So I just briefly wanted to mention as well that poster presenters can also create poster videos. And so we recommend following the instructions for pre-recorded sessions. If you want to use a Zoom presentation to record that 3 to 5 minute presentation, you shouldn't have any issues. You can also do so in PowerPoint if PowerPoint is where you created your poster. The submission deadlines are going to be the same. I'm going to go ahead and throw those up on the screen again. Let's see. Sorry, one moment. So yes, submission deadlines. So the submission form will be available on Friday, February 12th. And again, all of those poster pre-recorded materials will be due on the 28th. For posters, I realize you don't have a session ID. So if you could title your poster with your last name, that will be sufficient, and we'll get that uploaded to the correct place for you. All right, so that is sort of all of our our guide material for creating your pre-recorded presentations, both the video presentations and the poster presentations. So I wanted to show you a few of the features in Whova, just so you get an idea of what your sessions will look like once they do get uploaded. So as I mentioned, for the pre-recorded presentations, the video presentations, your session is going to look very much like this. So you'll have your pre-recorded video up in this top left-hand corner here. And then towards the bottom, you will have more information, including your speaker profiles. So any speakers who are associated with your session will be listed right here, and members can access their profile. And that profile, we're going to explain exactly how you fill out that information. Down below, any handouts that you may have provided, whether they're transcripts, supplementary materials, will be accessible here. And so again, members are able to open those up and download them. If you do want to add a watermark or a copyright, we have provided instructions. On the right-hand side, this is going to be one of the areas where you can engage with your attendees. And so the two main areas are going to be the Q&A area and the chat area. So the Q&A area, you have a few different options as a presenter. And so this is what the screen will look like if you're a presenter attending your session. You'll be able to see which questions were answered, or which questions were asked. And you'll also be able to have a few different tools for pinning the question to the top. If it's a really popular question or a question you think needs more visibility, you can pin it to the top. So essentially what that means is anytime a presenter or attendee comes into this area, that question will be right at the top for them to see. You can also hide the question from your audience. So if there are any inappropriate questions you notice, or even just off-topic questions, maybe questions that just aren't even helpful for everyone to see, you can go ahead and hide those from the audience. So only the presenters will be able to see those. You can also mark the question as answered. And so after the question has been answered, or if there's ongoing discussion on it and you want to go ahead and mark it as answered, you can do that. We also have the chat area. The chat area is going to be a very open area, very similar to what you would see in a Zoom meeting or any sort of message board. People can come in and type sort of whatever they'd like. And the messages will show up here, very much like a chat you would see in an iMessage or even a text message. So you'll see the name of the person. You can click into their profile. You can also see what they said in the chat and what time they said it at. As a presenter, you will automatically get email notifications when someone asks a question or engages in the chat area. If you would like to enable phone or tablet notifications, you can do so. You'll have to download the Whova app and sort of set up the Whova on your phone or tablet, and then you can enable sort of those phone notifications in addition to the email notifications that you will get from the desktop app. The third area I wanted to mention is the polls area. So members are able to presenters are able to create polls for their sessions. And so if you decide to create a poll, there's a few different types of selections you can add, whether it's a multiple choice, a checkbox, a short answer, a word cloud, things of that nature. You can create your question, add in your selection options, and then you do get a selection down here at the bottom. You can have multiple polls just sitting in your session for members to engage in. You can also prompt the poll when members enter your session so they start responding as soon as they interact with your session presentation materials. I don't know if that would be useful, but it is an option to members to be able to add polls to their sessions. Once you add it, it will basically sit in this polls area next to your session on the right. So that is the first way to really interact with participants in your pre-recorded sessions. The second option is a live meetup or virtual meeting area. And there's two ways that you can engage with that. The first is this community tab on the right side of your session presentation. That's also going to be the same tab as this community area here. So what it does is it basically takes the community area you would access in your left main navigation tab, and it sort of puts everything into the small window on your right. So for purposes of better visuals, I'm going to click on the community tab here. Now you'll see here we have the channel meetups. These are reserved for live sessions. So live sessions will be accompanied by a live discussion. However, for pre-recorded sessions, you can also create your own virtual meetup. You can do this both for live topical discussion regarding your session, as well as live discussion if it's a reception or maybe a happy hour, just a get together that you want to have with other presenters and attendees. It's really simple to set it up. You're going to suggest a virtual meet here. Whova is a software that also integrates for live meetings. So unfortunately, we're not going to have any physical meetups, but the virtual meets will allow you to add a URL and basically do what we're doing here, have a little bit of a Zoom meeting, enjoy conversation live with other participants. So here you can title your session, you can add a description for whatever the content or the theme might be. And then you can connect your Zoom account or another external meeting link. So if you like to use Microsoft Teams or different softwares, you can add in the link here. And then you can set a duration and a date and a time. And so this is really at your discretion to create these as you like. Once they are created, they will show up in this meetup area. So in our community tab, under meetups and virtual meets, you'll start seeing multiple meetups showing up, and they might have different names, discussion of pre-recorded presentation, such and such. And so members can come in and can join that meetup and engage in that live discussion. Because of capacity for the SFAA's moderating team, we unfortunately don't have the bandwidth to provide moderators for these sessions. However, on our SFAA guide, which will be available later today, we have a quick reference guide and tips for moderating. So both how to use Zoom features for moderating, which will be important if you're having any disruptions or issues, and then tips for best practices in terms of running a smooth session. And so we recommend that presenters use these documents to help guide those types of sessions. And of course, we're available for questions if you have any in terms of creating those types of meetups. What I would recommend is if you are creating that type of meetup and you want to get a little bit of visibility, you want people to know that you're going to have that meetup, I would recommend in your session creating an announcement. And so you can create an announcement in the chat area and let everyone know what time the session meetup is going to be at, what the topic of that meetup is going to be. So people who are coming in to see your session can also see, oh, there's going to be live discussion at this time. The system itself within Whova also allows for an announcement feature. So if you're really excited about a meetup that you'd like to create, you can work with us to create an announcement that everyone in Whova will be able to receive. So just a few ways to get a little bit of visibility on the types of discussions that you can create. All right, before we finish, I'm going to review creating speaker profiles in Whova. And so let's run here to creating speaker profile in Whova. So on March 1st, we are going to send out all of the presenter links and all of the presenter links and attendee/member links. So the presenters, most of you are going to be attendees as well. And so I wanted to note, it does not matter which link you select. The presenter link will bring you to a presenter or a speaker information. It will only allow you to submit your speaker information. So that's going to be your name, your full name, your email, your affiliation, your job title, and a short biography, as well as a profile picture. You'll be able to submit that speaker information, but you won't be able to access Whova. You'll have to follow the member link, which we're also going to be providing member instructions on the website today. And that member link is going to allow you to do the same thing. So you can set up your profile information. If you've already set up your speaker information, that will carry over in your attendee profile. The main difference is that when you access the attendee profile, you can access the rest of the event. So essentially, the speaker link will just be to set up your speaker profile, and the attendee link will be to access the entire event. And so again, we have some instructions on the website. I'm happy to answer any questions as they arise and provide any one-on-one assistance as needed. The final few things I wanted to mention here is we have provided presentation checklists to help you create your presentation and make sure you have everything in order before you submit. So we have a pre-recorded presentation checklist for those who are giving the video pre-recorded presentations. And we've also created a poster checklist. If you're creating a poster, check these things off to make sure you've sort of met everything we've suggested or recommended. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to mention before we head to questions is our office hours. So we are providing office hours for members to get some one-on-one assistance, whether that be live or through email. And Janelle is going to pop this contact information into the chat as well. So feel free to copy and paste that into your email or your documents at home. So I wanted to break down what we could each help with. And so I have a live slot link here. And this is to book 15 or 30-minute slots with me. If you have a quick question, you'd rather do a little Zoom meeting, we can go ahead and organize that and clarify whatever you need. If you need a little more assistance with your presentation or some issues that you might be having, I also have 30-minute slots for more dedicated assistance. I also have an email, tech coordinator at Applied Anthro, for any questions that you would prefer to just have answered via email. And so I can help with creating and conducting your presentations, as well as Whova, and it says Dropbox questions. It's actually going to be submission questions. We're going to have you submit through the website. And so if you're having any issues submitting, I'm happy to answer those questions. Janelle Marshall is also provided a Calendly link, as well as her email for questions. She can answer basically what I can answer, creating and conducting presentations and Whova questions. If you have questions about how Whova works or how your presentation is going to look, we can review those with you, as well as helping, create and make sure you have a smooth presentation. And then Rebecca Eli Long here, she's got her email listed, and I would direct any accessibility questions towards her, whether that's creating your presentation materials or how your presentation materials are going to be facilitated within Whova. She will be your point of contact. And so we're providing these to help give you sort of an extra level of support. If anything was unclear, we'd be happy to clarify in these office hours. And just make sure you feel supported and ready to go before the meeting comes. So the final thing I wanted to show was training dates, which Michael Pauliso mentioned right before our presentation started today. These are also accessible on the website, but just to remind you, if you are engaging in a live stream presentation, we're going to have live stream training on Thursday, February 25th at 6 p.m. and Monday, March 1st at 1 p.m. We're also going to be providing moderator training. So if you are also moderating sessions, webinar sessions, we're going to have those trainings on March 4th, Thursday at 6 p.m. and March 8th, Monday at 1 p.m. After members and presenters are given access to Whova, which again is going to be Monday, March 1st, we are also going to be providing some individual and small group trainings for getting familiar with the Whova software. So this will be for people who specifically need help setting up their accounts, navigating Whova, figuring out where to access different things in the system. The attendee guides are going to be listed on the SFAA website as early as tonight. So you can get familiar with what the desktop app is going to look like, as well as the mobile app. And those guides will make more sense as we actually open up Whova, but it'll give you an idea of the different ways that you can interact with the platform. So with all of that being said, I think we can go ahead and answer questions.
Okay, great. The first question is there a way to re-record content from a specific slide, or would you have to record the entire presentation again?
Yes, great question. So I can share screen real quick again and show you guys. So on the PowerPoint, I'm assuming it was a PowerPoint question, you are able to re-record slides. So like, let's say I don't like my second slide here. What I can do is actually clear the time from it and clear the narration. So here we go. I can clear the timing on the current slide, and then I can also clear the narration on the current slide. And so when I go back in to record the slideshow, I can start right here at this current slide that I want to record narration at. Let's say I want to go for 10 seconds. I'm going to wait for, oh, my kitten needs some attention, and I'm going to go ahead and end the show right there. So you'll see I recorded for about 12 seconds, and I just recorded that one slide. Excuse me. Sorry, she's hungry. So I hope that answers the question. But yes, you can come in and have a little bit of modification with just certain slides.
Is it possible to embed video of presenter?
Oh, with PowerPoint, I have not been able to find instructions for how to do so online. There was a member who said it was possible in our last training. And so my best recommendation would be to try and look online to see if it is possible. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any way to do so through PowerPoint.
Yeah, and it sounds like that might be a Mac or a PC thing. So since I use a PC, I will try and see if I can figure it out so we can get some more clarity on that.
Our university is only holding cloud recordings 30 days and then trashes them.
Yes. So in the instance that cloud recordings are only up for 30 days, I would recommend downloading that recording to a local drive, which would be a computer file that you might have. Or just if it does upload to the cloud, you still have downloading possibilities after. So if it's uploaded and then 15 days later, you're ready to go ahead and submit it, you can download it to your computer to make sure it doesn't delete.
Okay. Our session is pre-recorded, but also has a time window for when it is happening. How will these two work together? Are we expected to attend our scheduled time?
I don't think that's necessary. The pre-recorded presentations have a specific time in Whova, and that's really just for scheduling purposes, so people aren't inundated with 20 pre-recorded presentations at one time. However, members can access those presentations before that scheduled time slot as well as after. And so I don't think it's necessary for you to be in at your specific time slot. Again, you'll be receiving any notifications from members if they're engaging in the chat and Q&A. So you might want to pay attention when you get those notifications, but otherwise there's really no commitment you need to be providing at that given time.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and follow up directly on the next question about timing, which is that these sessions will be available throughout the conference, and they'll be available throughout kind of the next 90-day window where we're keeping the annual meeting open to all attendees. So it's not that these videos need to be watched at this particular time. It's just for whatever reason, the Whova software likes it to have a particular time in the program. So that's sort of where it gets slotted in and where it gets highlighted on the program, but it will be available throughout the conference. And I'm seeing also a couple of questions about timing and presentation length as well. So the easy answer is that these videos would probably be about 15 or 20 minutes long. Basically, the pre-recorded session has a 105-minute block. Because it's not happening live, there's a little bit of flexibility with that. But what you can do is in your session is you can ask basically each presenter to share that time. So if there are 5 people in the session, that would be about a 20-minute video from each of them.
How will business meetings be handled in the meetup section?
So business meetings are going to be handled similarly to live presentations. They'll be in the main agenda area. So I can go ahead and share my screen real quick. So on the main agenda area, even though they're not given a dedicated session ID, they're going to appear in this agenda area at the time that they're listed in the program. So for instance, let's see, business TIG meeting. I think that's what it was called. Oops. Sorry, I was trying to find the business TIG. Maybe it's business meeting. Oh, I can't find it. Sorry. So let me see if I can scroll through and find one of the regular meetings. I think there were some on Thursday. Sorry, I wanted to give a visual representation. It might be more trouble than it's worth. So essentially the business meetings that occur for all of the TIGs are going to occur in the general HUVA agenda. So they'll be given a specific date and time, and those are going to be run as Zoom meetings. And so they'll be open, members can discuss back and forth with one another. And so those will be available for that specific time within the agenda.
Can we talk a bit about the responsibilities of the presentation chairs? For example, what are the introductions supposed to look like? Should there be one intro at the beginning, or do we introduce each speaker individually?
That's a great question. And something we really haven't decided a process on. I would say session presenters and session chairs may be able to run the session as they best see fit. If you think presentations at the beginning introductions at the beginning are useful, you can go ahead and conduct them then. You can also jump in and handle the transitions between presentations. So especially if you're doing it like a Zoom meeting where you're all recording at once, I would say that the session chair should facilitate introductions and facilitate transitions between presentations. If you're recording separately, the introductions are going to happen as the presenters are giving their presentations, and we're basically just going to combine those videos together. So I guess it's a little bit up to the session chairs if they're going to record in Zoom.
Could you go over this? Where do the chairs upload the presentation videos in HUVA directly?
No, so we are, oh, sorry, Trish, did you want to answer?
I do want to say, we had talked earlier about the chairs uploading everyone's together. Because we have now taken it to the website and not a Dropbox, all presenters can submit their presentations themselves. The chair does not have to group them. Because they are such large video files, chairs may or may not have accessibility to group presentations together. So presenters can submit them all themselves on the website once we give out the information. If chairs would like to group them together and send them in, that is fine. If you have the technological capabilities to do that, that is fine. But we will be having a direct website where all the information can be uploaded to. And we will be sending out the links for those as well as have them on the website.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll clarify the instructions on the guides before we post them to the website today. But essentially, as Trish said, all the presenters can submit their materials through the website, and we're going to send out emails at the same time that they can do that, letting them know where exactly to submit those materials.
Kira, I'd just like to add that it'd be good that the chairs work with their presenters to make sure that they're uploaded and to double check that all the presenters have uploaded, et cetera. So that would be an extra check on making sure that things are moving forward smoothly.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, and ideally, if you can all record together, it'll be one submission by the session chair. If for whatever reason you can't, then we can break down into these individual submissions. But yes, as Michael said, that extra help from session chairs would be great.
If we get email notifications of when attendees engage in our pre-recorded sessions and post questions/chat, when will it be first available to attendees and for how long will it be available for?
Great question. So the event is going to be open March 1st as of now. If anything changes, we'll communicate with you. And so from March 1st, attendees will be able to start looking at presentations in Whova, particularly the pre-recorded presentation materials. So from March 1st, they'll be able to start asking questions. We are also leaving Whova open for 90 days after the event. And so that will take us to June 25th, I believe. And so attendees could, in theory, be engaging with these presentations after the event date. However, we are going to be creating some attendee etiquette and guidelines for knowing how to interact with Whova and when are sort of the best appropriate times to do so. And so there shouldn't be too much engagement with materials after the event is over. It's just so members can still access it if they miss things.
When do we contact our session chair for guidance on how he/she wants to run the session?
So Trish, I know, or Melissa, the SFAA office sent out emails last week introducing all of the presenters in a session to each other. I would recommend starting to communicate as soon as possible about what's the best way for everyone to run the session. If you have a time you can all meet to record, that's great. If not, go about recording your own presentations and communicating with the session chair about collecting those and getting those submitted. Our presenter guide, again, is going to be accessible this evening on the website, if not very early, first thing tomorrow morning. So I would recommend just beginning that open communication as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. If you're presenting in a pre-recorded session, and go ahead and get in touch with your chair and start having the discussion about how to record the materials.
Should we watermark the pre-recorded presentations as well as the handouts?
So the pre-recorded presentations are not able to be downloaded from Whova. So any of the video pre-recorded presentations that are uploaded, there's no way for attendees or presenters to download those. So it's not necessary to watermark the video. But if you're adding these supplementary materials, like if you're adding slides, which are going to be downloaded as a PDF, or if you're adding a transcript, which might be downloaded as a Word document or a PDF, I would recommend watermarking those. It's essentially any of the additional materials can be downloaded, but the videos themselves, the live streams themselves cannot.
I am concerned about meeting the accessibility goal. To what degree do we need to explain or address the information on a slide? For example, how would we handle citations at the end of the bullet, which in a live presentation, you may not typically mention these?
Yeah, so that's a great question. What I would ask everyone to do is to pretty much read just about all of the content on the slide. I think a citation is a great example of something that you might not typically read aloud. So if it's, a short parenthetical citation, that might be pretty easy to mention. But a more accessible way to do it, if it's at kind of a list of references at the very end of your presentation and it's a little awkward to read the full citation information, is that's information that you could place in a Word document and upload along with your presentation so that anyone who wants those citations and who is curious about them can access them there without you having to read through all of those details.
Is your thumbnail required? If we choose to use PowerPoint, is it sufficient to record the audio as you demonstrated earlier, or should we use another software in case we can't figure out how to include our thumbnail?
Yeah, it is totally sufficient if you just want to record your audio and presentation slides. We're all transitioning to online meetings, and we want to make this meeting as easy for presenters to participate in as possible. So if you can't figure out how to add a thumbnail, and Rebecca, Eli, and I will definitely double check and see if we can find instructions online for doing this. That's okay. It's just, it makes it a little more accessible if you can add your thumbnail and create your presentation that way. It helps attendees, see who's speaking, but by no means is it required. So, we're all just doing the best we can, and that's okay.
That is all the questions. So Michael, I will pass it back to you.
Okay. First, I want to thank Kira and Rebecca Eli for their presentations and all the work that they've put in preparing these presenter guidelines. Thanks, Janelle, for being our moderator, and to everyone. I hope you can see that the working group has put a lot of time and effort into preparing for the meeting, and we're excited about it. We will be very available to help you. If you have questions, there's lots of different ways to get in touch with us. We'll be providing one-on-one guidance and training through the office hours, and we hope to have during the meeting a hotline if you have a question. So I can't encourage you enough to start preparing your presentations early, because this is a new world with deadlines being moved up a couple weeks before the conference, so we can make sure that we get everything uploaded correctly and that your session is ready to go at the beginning of the meeting. They'll actually be ready to go before the meeting starts. And so the sooner you get it to us, the sooner people can begin to see your pre-recorded session. So do get in touch with us with any questions. We're back doing this again on Thursday if you'd like to sit in and hear the question and answer, and we'll cover the same material, but probably a little bit different looks at it here and there. Do any of the members of the meeting working group have any final thoughts, comments? No? Okay, well, this recording will be uploaded to the website if you want to refer to it. Usually Trish gets it up almost the same day, Trish or Melissa. So I want to thank everyone for joining in today and looking forward to the meeting, and let us know any of your questions. I see there was a question just popped up. We can follow up on that later with Luis. Yeah. Okay. If no other questions, thank you very much and have a good rest of your day.